So today we are going to discuss another room on TryHackMe, and it's another continuity of the Love at the First Reach CTF 2026 of TryHackMe. And today we are going to discuss signed messages room, which has a lot of cryptography involved in it, and we are going to break the encryption. And basically this app is a secure is as secure for delivering messages, and the messages are only secret unless you find the key. There are two keys that are usually involved. There is a lot of cryptography involved there too. The RSA 2048 signatures that are involved, and we are going to discuss it. So this is an app that is presented to us on 5000 port. It is using a Python server to host this website, and it is a medium level challenge. So once we are presented with this, we are given an initial title of Send Love Securely, and then there is professional PKI based messaging platform for Valentine's Day, and it's basically conveying that every message is secure as it is using a military level grade encryption, which is RSA 2048 encryption. But since it is a challenge, there might be a loophole that we need to exploit. So if we look here, there are digital signatures. Every message is a cryptography signed using RSA 2048 to ensure authenticity and prevent tampering. And then there is to verify authenticity, verify any message signature. We can verify using this verify. And then there are publicly available messages. Public share love messages publicly or send private encrypted note to specific persons. So there is one message of admin. Welcome to LoveNote, send encrypted messages. And this Valentine's Day, your communications are secured with industry standard RSA 2048 digital signatures. So if I would just get to know more about this, first of all, so there is an RSA 2048 encryption. So if you generally don't know how the cryptography RSA signatures work at the core level, let me give you a basic concept. So there is a public key that anyone can see. You can think of it as a lock that is available publicly, and anyone with the key could open up that lock. For example, if you have gone on a vacation to some northern areas or some hilly site, then you would have locked up your house with a lock, and if you are the intended person or you have the ownership for that house, then you would have the only key to unlock that lock. So you can think that lock that you have placed on your door of the house as a public key, while the key that you are holding is a private key that only the intended person could unlock using that lock, or the private key that can be used for that public key. So that's the same concept involved here. You sign with your own private key, and anyone checks the signatures with their public key to verify the encryption, and the intended persons can just see your messages. It is not tampered, or any other third party could view it as such. And how are these keys are made is also another complex topic of cryptography. I'm going to try to explain at the most basic level. So there are two large primes called P and Q, and when you multiply them, you get a new number which is called N, and N is basically the multiple of two prime numbers. And then there is an math involved where you get a public exponent and a private exponent too, and these are used for signing and verifying the messages. To sign a message, a more complex math is involved. As such, we need to compute the signature by calculating the mod. And when we compute the signatures, it is basically as such that if it equals to the signatures that we computed earlier, then the signature is valid. It is more kind of complex. I'm trying to if it doesn't make sense for now, just try to make the concept of public and private key. The generation mechanism is quite complex, but it is not secure completely. If the prime numbers can be predicted, then you can ultimately temper the encryption as such. And to get the prime numbers, if the prime numbers are just not large enough integers, then, like for example, if the prime numbers are 11 and 55, not some high bits prime numbers, then you could ultimately brute force it and you could get the private key. And this at the most core lies all on those prime numbers. And if we could have a predictable pattern, then it also generally makes us easier to reproduce P and Q, the prime numbers, and thus we can get the private key. So this is the more core idea. If the keys are tiny here, then we could most probably compute the P and Q, and then we could break up the cryptography involved here. And let's see what do we have here on it. So there is digital signature. Every message includes a digital signature that proves authenticity and ensures that message hasn't been tampered with in transit. And then there is message verification. So how it works, you create an account. This app basically generates us a unique RSA-2048 pair, and your private key is used to sign the messages, while your public key is distributed to verify your signatures. The same way the RSA level encryption really works. When computing a message, the text is hashed using this algorithm and encrypted with our own private key to create a digital signature which is attached to the message. And then we can verify the message by decrypting the signature with our own public key and comparing the result to a fresh hash of the message. Let's register. So I'm gonna create for a user alpha, and let's see what are we presented. Okay, so we are presented with our own public key and with our own private key. So others use it to verify your signature. So this is our own private key, and as you can see, it is not really big, it is very small, and it would be having like 505 bits. I have computed it, 505, or I guess it's 506. Anyways, it's either one of these, and the private key is generally can be computed. If there is a predictable pattern, we can just get to know what is being involved to compute this. So at the more basic, when you are trying to exploit a web here, it's a web challenge to along with the cryptography. So if we could just look what endpoints do we have other than this. We have a verify endpoint where we could verify our signatures, and a dashboard endpoint where we have our own profile, a compose endpoint where we could compose our new message, and a home endpoint. So then it is quite a chance that there might be some other endpoints that are not available. So we are gonna brute force these points, and how it works at the most core level is we are gonna iterate through commonly used naming mechanisms, and if we get a hit, then it would give us a 200 response as the output. So I'm gonna use GoBuster for it. You can use some other tools like FUF, First Faster Useful. It's an abbreviation of FUS, and it's quite at the more core lies on automation, not you can do it just manually. So I would recommend you to check out some nice tools. And the word list that I'm using is big.txt. It is generally contains a lot of words that are predictable as such, and the T flag over here is specifying up the threads. I don't know, it's either due to our session not being given. We could give our session value here if it, because we are not logged in as such, and I think that we need to give him our unique session value, which is called cookie in an abbreviation. And if we just give him this session value, I don't know, it's not working out for us. So session, it should work like this, or there is, anyways, let's use or GoBuster, directory buster, or it should work. Let's try to ping up the host to see if it is really up. The host seems to be down too. 10.16.142.215 66.142. Oh, sorry, it's 65. 10.65.142.215. I'm really sorry for that. So .65.142 not specified. So let's just hear him here, and it's gonna iterate through. Sorry for the disturbance, but you could just give him the session cookie to verify the session flag and the cookie as well to get more on the endpoints. For now, there is, let's explore this. If we have any other interesting thing on the home page, I guess would be some authenticity. There is this message of admin, welcome to the LoveNote, and I think this needs to be involved somewhere, as we ultimately wanna be signing the messages using admin, and that's the most okay. So we found one interesting endpoint, which is debug, other than our normal default endpoints. Let's view this endpoint for now and see if we get anything interesting. So debug is generally an endpoint left during development, and yes, we found a lot of interesting things. So basically we found the generation behind these keys, the mechanism that is involved, and it is using a deterministic key generation. It's using a common seed, the seed that is being used to compute the prime numbers, and the seed generally contains the username. And for example, if my user is alpha, then I could just generate my key using this entire mechanism. And at the most core of it, when you are logging, it only requires us a username. For now, I'm gonna log out and log in again to verify that it only requires us a username. So yes, it only requires us a username, meaning we could ultimately log in as an admin too. Login admin, and we would have no such. So we are an admin here, an official note, a LoveNote system for announcement, and we are an admin here, and we can't see our own private key as such, but there is no password. The only message verification that is being used is the crypto key generation pair, and it is vulnerable since we know the debug endpoint and leaks internal logs, and this should be hidden, and it includes the seed that is used to generate the keys, and since it is using a predictable key generation, we could exploit it as such. If I just open it again, so it takes the username and it produces the private key. That's the most core idea, and it could be brute forced as such, and we could try to generate the prime numbers by this seed and thus exploiting this cryptography. At the initial, when we were logged in, we were presented with two private keys. I did take a note on that, and now we are gonna use those particular keys to, along with this CD mechanism, to generate our own digital signature and verify our own messages. Here as such, the digital generation signature involves some complex maths, and I am gonna generate a new user for now to get the private keys again, public and private keys, and yes, so these are the keys, public key and private key. I'm going to store it public key, and now read dot key. So more often when you see the RS encryption, if you have ever used SSH IDRS, then it is generally long, and what it means as such that it is using more longer primes than the commonly used primes, or lower primes, or even deterministic pattern involved here. So it's impossible to compute that key, but here it is generally short. So we are going to try to compute our digital signature. A digital signature is basically a proof of the message that it is sent by you. It is, if you have ever used a stamp before, so the stamp means it is signed by your boss, but it doesn't mean that it could be as such that you could sign that stamp. But it is a digital signature, that it is a signature, it is a proof that it was signed by admin. No other person could sign it, but if someone could get hold of that stamp or the signature, then he could pretend as the boss. So here is the same case. We are going to use, so you can see there was this proves that it's coming from me. If I am from if I want to become an admin, I would use this Python that I would give you in the comment section. And what this Python does is it's going to take the unique seed which has the admin username, and it's going to compute the unique prime numbers, which are P and Q, and it's going to multiply them and get a public exponent and a private exponent, and thus computing this RSA components. E is the public exponent, and it multiplies and we get a public exponent and a private exponent, and that is used to derive the keys, the public and the private keys, and thus giving us the final admin signature. I'm gonna give this Python in the description box, so do check that out too. I'm gonna run this to forge as an admin. Okay, so we need some libraries, and I have this in my virtual environment. So this is our final signature. We're gonna select it as an admin, the signature and the message, which was welcome, and there is a comma at last too, and that signature was verified and we were able to perceive as an admin. And behind this there is a flag. I'm not gonna reveal, so it was a very cool room. Do check this out. Do check this Python, the cryptography that is being involved. The main weak point in this cryptography was that the seed that was revealed on the debug endpoint, and it wasn't using large integers and prime numbers to compute the modulus and the private and public exponents, so it was quite predictable, and thus we exploited this cryptography, and it was a really nice challenge. Do check out the other videos of the first bit CTF, and do subscribe up the channel if you are loving this content, and make sure to leave a comment and anything you didn't understand about this walkthrough. I would make sure to reply all of those comments, and do leave a like, and thanks for watching.